let's connect the potentiometer to the Arduino. What we're going to need is the potentiometer, a couple of short wires, a few long wires, the breadboard, and the Arduino. I've already connected the display wires in this, but it doesn't matter what order you do this in. The first connection we need to make is the 5-volt and ground from the Arduino to the breadboard. I've already done this for the display. If you do this now, we'll have a wire where it says 5V and a wire where it says GND. If you don't have the description on the outer rail, it should be on the inside here, 5V and GND. The 5V is going to go to the row right next to the red bar, and the GND wire is going to go to the row by the blue bar. So I have the brown wire here in GND. It doesn't matter what color you use, just to be consistent. The brown wire goes from the GND to the blue bar, and the red wire I have goes from 5V to the red bar. So that's my power for the breadboard to enable my potentiometer. Now, my potentiometer has 3 legs. The rightmost leg, as you're looking down from the top, needs to be 5V. The leftmost leg needs to be ground, and the middle is going to be the input, which is going to go to A5 on the Arduino. So I'm going to plug this down all the way in the bottom column here where it says 30A, 28A, and 26A. That's the pins I'm going to end up connecting these in. Now for the breadboard, these 5 pins in this same column are all physically, electrically connected to each other. So if I plug a wire in one and I plug a wire in another, they'll be electrically connected. So these 5 pins are connected but separated from every other pin in the board. Then in the next row, these 5 pins are connected but separated from every other pin in the board. And then these 5 pins or sockets are connected but separated from every other pin in the board. So when I plug this in here and I plug a wire in the same column, they'll be connected. I'll plug that in last. What I'll do for now is I'll take 2 of my wires and I'm going to plug one end of these into the red and blue rows here. So here the yellow one will be connected to ground and the orange one will be connected to 5 volts. And then I'm going to plug the other end in these columns down here. So I want the 5 volts, which is the red line, connected to the rightmost pin. And each of these is separated by one empty socket when it's plugged in. So I'm going to count to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th column. If we use the numbering on the board, that's going to be column 26. For the input to the Arduino from the potentiometer, I'm going to use the middle column between the 2 I just plugged in, which on this breadboard would be 28. Careful to try to push them in straight. Maybe a little sticky to get pushed in, but push them in straight so they don't bend. If it bends a little bit, just straighten it with your fingers. A little pin on the end. Now that is going to go to A5 on the Arduino. Now that I've got my 3 wires set with 5 volts input and ground with one space in between, I'm going to plug in my potentiometer. So I want to make sure I get them lined up because it's really easy to get it off by one and then nothing will work. So I'm going in the outer pins on the rightmost leg. I'll get it in the holes, basically stand it upright so it's inserted as straight as possible, and then kind of wiggle it a little bit as you push it downward until the pins are in about up to the shoulders of the pins. Should look about like that. You should be able to twist the potentiometer, hopefully without the potentiometer falling out. If the breadboard's a little loose and the potentiometer falls out when you twist it, try to move everything to a different set of rows. You can also put your potentiometer on the other side of the board, but you're going to have a potentiometer and a button. So I personally prefer my button on the left, potentiometer on the right. Maybe you prefer it the other way. So I'll demo how the potentiometer should work on a finished game. When I rotate the potentiometer clockwise, the player should move to the right. And when I rotate the potentiometer counterclockwise, the player should move to the left. If it moves in the opposite direction, swap the outer two wires.